I guess it all starts with what I used to think was a pretty normal life. I'm 46. Married to my wife, Karen, for 21 years. We've got 2 kids. Emily is 17, just applied to college, and Ben is 14, full-time into video games and doesn't say much at dinner unless it's about Minecraft or whatever new YouTube guy he's into. We live in the suburbs outside of Columbus. I work in logistics for a regional distributor. Not glamorous, but it's stable. Karen teaches 4th grade at the elementary school around the corner. Every Tuesday we had taco night. Every Saturday I mowed the lawn and then sat in the garage with a beer watching the neighbor across the street wrestle with his leaf blower. That kind of life. Quiet. Predictable. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it either. It just was. Like a background hum you learn to live with. We had the occasional arguments. Mostly about the same old things: money, how the kids are being raised, the thermostat setting. But nothing serious enough to break anything. Then one day, out of nowhere, I got a friend request on Facebook. Melissa Taylor. That name hit like a punch to the gut. High school. 1995. Haven't seen her since we graduated. She was the girl who sat 2 rows over in AP English. I had the biggest crush on her back then. I never did anything about it, obviously. I was a shy, awkward kid with braces and bad skin. She was funny and smart and out of my league. So yeah, I stared at that notification for a few minutes. Her profile pic was just a headshot, smiling, older obviously, but still had those same eyes. I clicked accept. No idea why, really. Curiosity? Boredom? Not even 10 minutes later, she messaged me. Hey. Wow, it's been forever. I saw your name pop up and had to say hi. How are you? I typed back something dumb, like, hey. Yeah, wow. I'm good. You. And just like that, we started talking. First it was just messages. Then we started emailing. Then texting. Then phone calls. She lived 3 hours away outside of Dayton. Divorced, no kids. Worked as a freelance editor from home. She said she'd been through a rough patch but was doing okay now. I didn't think much of it at first. Just catching up. Reminiscing. It felt harmless. Karen even asked once, who are you texting so much lately? And I just said, old classmate. She didn't push. But over time, Melissa and I started talking about more than high school. She asked questions no one had asked me in years. What I wanted out of life. What made me feel stuck. What made me happy or didn't. I didn't know how to answer most of it. No one had asked me that stuff in a long time. Maybe ever. It all felt easy with her. Familiar. Like no time had passed. Then one day she said we should grab coffee sometime, for real. And just like that I said yes. Even though I knew I shouldn't. Even though I had a family. Even though I had no business letting it get this far. I said yes. And that was the beginning of the end. We met on a Saturday. I told Karen I was going to check out a warehouse site down in Springfield, some expansion our company was thinking about. It wasn't even that good of a lie, but she nodded and said, all right. Be back for dinner, and I said, should be. I wasn't nervous until I was about halfway there. Then the weight of it hit me. This wasn't some online catching up thing anymore. This was real. I kept thinking about my kids. About Karen. About what this would look like if someone saw us. But I didn't turn around. We met at this little coffee shop near her place. Not a chain, just a quiet spot with plants in the windows and mismatched chairs. She was already there, sitting by the window, stirring her tea. When I walked in, she looked up and smiled, and I swear, it felt like I was 17 again. She stood up, we hugged. It was quick but close, like we'd done it 1,000 times before. I hadn't seen her in almost 30 years, but it didn't feel like that. We sat and talked for 3 hours. Not just surface stuff either. We talked about the things we regretted, what we'd given up, what we never tried. She told me her marriage fell apart after 10 years. Said he was cold, absent. Said she stayed longer than she should have because it felt easier than starting over. I nodded, not saying much because a lot of that hit too close to home. Then she looked at me and said, are you happy? And I couldn't answer. That was the moment, really. Not the hug. Not the drive. That question. Because if I'd been happy, really, truly happy, I would have had an answer ready. Instead, I just sat there, staring at the foam in my coffee like it held some kind of clue. She reached across the table and touched my hand. Just lightly. But it was enough. After coffee, we walked. Just a few blocks, nothing planned. She stopped outside a bookstore and looked at me. You know, she said, I had such a thing for you in high school. You were quiet, but I always noticed you. I laughed, thinking she was joking. But she wasn't. If you'd asked, she said, I would have said yes. I didn't know what to do with that. All I could think about was how different my life might have been if I just had a little more nerve at 17. Before I got in my car to leave, we hugged again. This one lingered. She whispered, "I'm glad you came." And I said, "Me too." Then I drove home like nothing had happened. Karen was on the couch with a blanket over her legs, watching some crime show. She looked up and said, "You eat down there?" I nodded. "Yeah." Grabbed a sandwich. She didn't ask anything else. I sat down beside her and we watched TV for 2 hours. She fell asleep on my shoulder, like she had so many times before. And the whole time, I just sat there, staring at the screen, heart still pounding from a coffee date I couldn't stop replaying in my head. I didn't know where it was going yet, but I knew I couldn't go back to how things were before. We met in person on a Saturday. I told Karen I had to check out a warehouse in Springfield, something work-related. It was a lie, not a clever one either. She didn't question it. Melissa picked the place. A small coffee shop in Dayton, off the main road. Not busy, not loud. I got there 10 minutes early and sat in the car, just watching the door, hands sweating on the steering wheel. 10:03, she walked in. Still had the same walk, confident, a little fast like she was always thinking ahead. She wore jeans and a gray sweater, simple, but somehow perfect. When she saw me, she smiled in a way that made my chest tighten. We hugged. She smelled like spearmint gum and something faintly floral I couldn't place. We talked over black coffee and lemon tea. No small talk. "I used to watch you during Mr. Carson's class," she said. "You always looked like you wanted to disappear." I laughed. I did. I hated speaking in front of people. She leaned in. "You were always interesting to me. Quiet, but not boring." That hit harder than it should have. I asked why she messaged me. She didn't dodge it. "I was lonely," she said. "And I remembered you. Honest, smart, kinda sad. I wondered what happened to you." I told her about my job, the kids, Karen. She listened, nodded, didn't interrupt. When I said, "Things are fine," she raised an eyebrow. "Fine," she repeated. That's such a dead word. Then she asked it, "Are you happy?" I didn't answer. She didn't push. Afterward, we walked 2 blocks to a bookstore. She stopped at the door, turned to me and said, "I had a crush on you in high school. If you'd asked me out, I would have said yes." I froze, just stood there like an idiot. She smiled, still quiet. I said, "I didn't think I had a shot." "You had more of one than you thought," she said. We didn't kiss. We didn't touch. But something shifted. That weird current between people who almost had something and now might. I drove home in silence. No music, just the low hum of the highway and that one question. "Are you happy?" Karen was watching a show when I walked in. "How was the drive?" I said, "Fine." And for the first time, I realized I hated that word too. A week after that coffee meetup, Melissa sent me a photo. Just a stupid little thing. A street mural she'd passed on her walk. A fox reading a book under a tree. She added, "Made me think of you." It hit me harder than I wanted to admit. Nobody thought of me like that. Not at home. Not at work. Most days I felt like a piece of furniture in my own house. Useful but invisible. I stared at that photo for a long time before replying. Then I just said, "That's kind of perfect." We started texting more. Every morning. Every night. Sometimes quick things, memes, quotes, photos of her cat. Sometimes longer stuff like what scared us most in life or what we'd do if we could start over. One night I sent, "I wish I had met you at a different time." She replied, "I wish you had said something sooner." It wasn't subtle anymore. At home I started pulling back. Quiet at dinner. Half listening to the kids. Karen noticed. "You okay?" she asked one night. "Yeah. Just tired." That word again. Tired. Fine. The words people use when they're too far gone to explain. 2 weeks later, I made up another excuse. Site visit in Dayton. And I drove out to see Melissa again. This time, she invited me in. Her apartment was small, tidy. Books everywhere. No TV. Just music playing low from an old stereo. She poured me a whiskey without asking. Sat down next to me on the couch. We didn't talk much. She kissed me first. I didn't stop her. I don't remember how long I was there. Hours, maybe. When I left, the sky was dark and my phone had 2 missed calls from Karen. I sat in the parking lot outside a gas station for 15 minutes before calling back. I told her I'd stayed late, lost track of time. She believed me, or wanted to. That night, I lay in bed beside her. She was asleep already, breathing soft. I looked up at the ceiling and realized I just detonated something I couldn't undo. I should have felt guilt. I didn't. I felt alive. And that scared me more than anything. After that night at Melissa's, things changed fast. We didn't play around pretending it was just a one-time thing. I went back to see her the next week and the week after that. Always some excuse. Inventory audit, driver issue, vendor meet. Karen never questioned it. She trusted me. I'd never given her a reason not to. Melissa never asked me to leave my family. Not once. But we both knew it was heading somewhere. She didn't talk about the future. She just made room for me. Her spare toothbrush sat in a cup on the sink. She kept my favorite beer in the fridge. One time I left a flannel shirt there by accident. Next visit, she was wearing it when I walked in. Back home, I was slipping. Forgetting things. Missing Emily's choir recital. Snapping at Ben when he left the fridge open. Karen caught me staring off more than once. "You've been off lately," she said. "Something wrong at work?" I nodded. Let her think it was work. It was easier than the truth. Then came the real fracture. It was a Friday. Karen was at a school fundraiser. Kids were at their friend's house. Melissa texted, "Come over tonight." No excuses. I was already halfway there before I answered. That night, we didn't talk much. It wasn't about that. Around 11:30, my phone buzzed. "Karen, are you still at the office? You're not picking up." I panicked. Told Melissa I had to go. She nodded, didn't argue. I hit the road, speeding the whole way. Got home close to 1 a.m. Karen was waiting in the living room. She looked at me, arms crossed. "Where were you?" I said work ran late. She just stared. "You smell like perfume," she said. I froze. I mumbled something, walked past someone, but it was pathetic. She didn't yell. Didn't cry. Just stood up, walked past me, and went to bed without a word. The next morning, we barely spoke. The kids came downstairs and we played normal. Made pancakes. Laughed at a stupid video Ben showed us. Karen was silent through all of it, just nodding when necessary. 2 days later, I came home from work and found her sitting at the kitchen table with her phone, laptop open. She looked up and said, "Who's Melissa?" I didn't answer. "You've been texting her." "A lot." She held up her phone, open to her cell phone account. She'd gone through the call log. "I know you're seeing her," she said. "I just want to hear you say it." I stood there like a coward. Finally, I said, "Yeah, I am." She didn't cry. Just sat back in the chair, hands in her lap. After a long pause, she said, "I want you to leave." I said, "What about the kids?" She said, "We'll figure it out. But I can't live like this." So I packed a duffel bag. Jeans, socks, a few shirts. She watched from the hallway. Didn't say goodbye. I slept on Melissa's couch that night. The next morning, I woke up to a text from Emily, "What's going on?" I didn't reply. I stared at that message for hours, knowing I couldn't explain it in a way that wouldn't break her heart. I moved in with Melissa that week. She cleared space in her closet. Gave me a drawer. I brought over 2 more bags, my work laptop, and a box of shoes. That was it. Everything else stayed at the house. Karen and I started texting only about the kids. She didn't block me. She didn't scream. She just went cold. I picked up Ben the following Saturday. He didn't say much during the drive, just stared out the window. When we got to Melissa's place, he hesitated before getting out. Inside, he sat on the edge of the couch, barely touched the pizza I'd ordered. He left early. Said he wasn't feeling well. Emily refused to come at all. "Not interested," she texted. I didn't push. Back at work, people noticed. I'd always been punctual, clean-cut, polite. Now I was late twice a week, stopped wearing a tie, kept to myself. My boss called me in after the 3rd Monday. I showed up looking like I hadn't slept. "Everything all right at home?" he asked. I said, "Going through some stuff." He nodded, said to take the time I needed. I told him I was fine. Standard lie by now. Melissa tried to keep things light. She cooked, put on movies, played music while she worked. But the place felt different now. Quieter. I was no longer a guest and we both knew it. One night, she asked, "When's the divorce happening?" I said, "We haven't filed anything. Do you want to?" I didn't answer. A week later, Karen had me served. No conversation. Just paperwork in a manila envelope delivered to the warehouse. Contested custody. Division of assets. Standard legal stuff, but seeing it typed out made it real. I texted her, "Can we talk before the lawyers do?" She replied, "Too late for that." I hired a lawyer. First meeting, he asked if I was seeking joint custody. I said yes. He looked over the file and said, "Might be hard, given the circumstances." I knew what he meant. At Melissa's, I started sleeping on the couch more often. Not because of a fight, but because I couldn't turn off my brain. Melissa noticed. One night, she sat on the arm of the couch and said, "You don't seem sure anymore." I said, "It's not you. It's everything." She said, "It is me. You thought I was a door. I'm a room, and you don't know if you want to live in it." That one stuck. Meanwhile, Karen blocked me on Facebook. Her profile photo changed from a family picture to one of just her and the kids at the beach. A place I never took them. I asked Emily when it was from. "Mom took us last year," she said. "You were working." Couldn't argue. Court dates started coming in. Mediation. Asset splits. I kept pushing my lawyer to make it easy. I didn't want to fight, but Karen pushed harder. She wanted the house. Full custody. No spousal support. Melissa told me I should fight back. I didn't. I started sleeping at a cheap extended stay 3 nights a week just to clear my head. Told Melissa it was for work. She didn't believe me, but she didn't ask either. 2 months after I moved out, Ben stopped answering my texts. Emily blocked my number. And just like that, the house, the marriage, the family, gone. Replaced with a 1-bedroom apartment, a cat I didn't like, and a silence I couldn't shake. The divorce took 8 months start to finish. We settled in mediation. Lawyers in a plain office room, shuffling papers and sliding proposals across the table. Karen wanted the house. I gave it to her. She wanted primary custody. I didn't fight it. I asked for alternate weekends and Wednesdays. She agreed. We split the retirement accounts down the middle. I kept my car. She kept the SUV. I signed the final agreement without reading it a second time. Didn't want to see the math on everything I lost. After the paperwork was filed, I moved into a small rental closer to my office. 1-bedroom, month-to-month lease. Melissa offered to help me set it up. I told her I needed to do it alone. She didn't ask twice. First night there, I unpacked the bare essentials. Socks, work shirts, a bag of toiletries. Ate cold spaghetti out of a takeout container. Slept on a borrowed air mattress until my bed frame was delivered. The court date for custody was quick. Karen sat across the room, didn't look at me once. The judge read the terms, confirmed we agreed, and signed off. I got every other weekend. Wednesday dinners. Half of summer break. The kids didn't show up to court. Emily texted that night, "This doesn't mean we're okay." I replied, "I know." She didn't write back. I saw Ben that Saturday. Picked him up at 10. He got in the car, earbuds already in. Said hi, nothing else. We went to a movie. I bought his favorite candy. He barely looked at me. Back at the apartment, he stayed glued to his phone. I made frozen pizza. He ate 1 slice. When Karen picked him up Sunday night, he didn't say goodbye. Melissa and I started seeing less of each other. We never had a fight. It just drifted. She texted less. I didn't stop by as much. One Friday, she messaged, "Want to do something this weekend?" I stared at it for 20 minutes before replying, "Not sure yet. Let you know." I never followed up. A week later, she called. Straightforward. "You're not really here," she said. "You left your marriage, but you didn't choose anything else. You're just floating." I didn't argue. She said, "I'm not waiting around for you to land." We hung up. No yelling. No goodbye. Just done. A month after that, I was officially divorced. No party. No calls. No real change except I stopped wearing my ring. Work stayed steady. I stopped making excuses. Showed up. Did the job. Went home. One day after a logistics meeting, my boss caught me in the hallway. He said, "Heard things settled. Hope you're hanging in there." I nodded. He said, "You're not the first. You won't be the last. Get through it." Then he walked off like it was nothing. Back at my place, I started leaving the TV off. Didn't call friends. Didn't drink. Just did laundry, cleaned dishes, looked at the ceiling a lot. Every Wednesday, I picked up Ben. Most nights, he didn't say more than 10 words. I stopped trying to force it. Just drove, let him be. Emily didn't talk to me for 5 months straight. Then one day she called. Her voice was flat. "Do you still have my AP scores from junior year?" I said, "I'll check." I found them in a folder, scanned them, emailed them to her. She replied, "Thanks." That was it. I saved the message anyway. By the start of the next year, the rhythm was set. Work from 8 to 5. Groceries on Saturdays. Laundry on Sundays. Ben every other weekend. Emily occasionally replying to texts, always short, mostly school-related. I paid child support through automatic withdrawal. Karen never responded to any message unless it was about the kids. I didn't try for anything else. Ben stopped coming to my apartment for visits. Karen said he wasn't comfortable. I didn't fight it. I asked if I could still pick him up for dinner on Wednesdays. She said she'd ask him. A week later she texted, "Not now." I saw a therapist once. Recommended by HR after a routine check-in. First session I gave a rundown of everything: affair, divorce, the kids. She asked what I wanted from therapy. I said, "I don't know." She said, "Then we'll start there." I didn't go back. Around March, Melissa texted out of nowhere. "Hope you're okay." I stared at it for a while. Then replied, "You too." That was the end of that thread. One Friday in April, I drove to a baseball game alone. Just picked a seat and watched. Thought about how many games I missed when Ben played Little League. Thought about how often I said, "Next time." At work, they offered me a promotion, regional supervisor. More pay, more travel. I took it. I didn't ask anyone's opinion. Just signed the papers and updated my email signature. I started flying twice a month: Chicago, Pittsburgh, St. Louis. Same hotels, same rental cars, different offices. In June, Emily graduated high school. Karen sent me the date and time of the ceremony. Nothing else. I showed up, sat in the row assigned to me, didn't speak to anyone. Took a picture of Emily from a distance. After the ceremony, I waited near the parking lot. She walked out with a group of friends, saw me, hesitated. I waved. She walked over. "Hey," I said. She nodded. "Thanks for coming. I'm proud of you." She said, "I know." Then she turned and left with her group. I got in my car and drove home. The next Monday, I started running in the mornings. Not for health. Just to fill the time. I ran 2 miles, then 3. Bought better shoes. Didn't track anything, didn't join a group. Just ran. That summer, I turned 47. I didn't celebrate. Karen didn't message. Emily didn't call. Ben didn't text. I didn't expect them to. In July, I got a letter from the county clerk. Final divorce certification. No action needed. Just confirmation. I threw it in a drawer. By fall, things had settled into something permanent. Ben started high school. Karen sent me his schedule. I replied, "Thanks." No response. I didn't push for visits anymore. I sent birthday gifts, cards, emails. Most went unanswered. Emily left for college out of state. I helped with the FAFSA paperwork, paid my share. She didn't ask me to visit campus. I didn't try to. She sent 2 texts in her first semester. One about a financial aid form. One saying I got an A in psych. I replied, "Proud of you." That was the last one. Melissa moved. I heard through someone at work who knew her friend. She took a job in Asheville. Never said goodbye. Never said anything. I sold most of what was left in the apartment: extra furniture, decorations I never picked, old dishes. Got a smaller place closer to the airport. Spent more time in hotels than at home anyway. Travel became routine. Meetings, site visits, airports. Nobody asked questions. Nobody cared where I went at the end of the day. On Christmas, I sent gifts to the kids. Karen sent a short message back. They arrived. I didn't see them. New Year's Eve, I worked a late shift reconciling a shipment error. Didn't drink. Didn't watch the ball drop. Went to bed at 10. Spring came. Another year. One Saturday, I ran 6 miles without meaning to. Just didn't stop. My legs ached for 3 days after. I did it again the next weekend. Bought better gear. Noticed my gut was smaller in the mirror. Didn't smile, just noticed. Work offered another promotion. More regions. More pay. Less time home. I said yes. Started flying every week. Got status upgrades. Free breakfasts. Nobody to share them with. That summer, my father died. Karen brought the kids to the funeral. We didn't speak. I stood at the back. Watched Ben carry the urn. Watched Emily read the eulogy. Afterwards, I left without saying anything. I sent them both a message. You were brave today. Neither replied. In September, a coworker invited me to his wedding. I RSVP'd no. In October, I stopped checking Facebook. By the end of the year, I stopped checking anything. I woke up. I worked. I ran. I went to bed. The affair had lasted 5 months. The marriage, 21 years. Now everything was quiet. One Wednesday afternoon, I got an email from Emily. Subject line, paperwork. Inside was a scanned form. I reviewed it, signed it, sent it back. At the bottom of my reply, I wrote, I'm always here. Even if you don't want me to be. No answer. I kept showing up. Wednesday dinners even if Ben wasn't there. Birthday gifts. Tuition payments. Emails every few months just saying I hoped they were all right. Sometimes I got a reply. Most times I didn't. But I kept sending them anyway. Not because I thought it would fix anything, but because I had nothing left to do but keep trying. And that's where it stayed. That's where it still is. No big ending. Just what happened after everything changed.